Thank you very much. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here with you, with all of you, at my hometown, home country. I worked in double diagnostic clinics before and also detoxed patients for substance use that included alcohol, mostly then cocaine, speed, heroin, and cannabis. But currently I'm working on trauma area, patients with PTSD and mood disorders, mostly the refugees and immigrants, together with Parnassia Addiction Research Center. Yet more than half of my patients are having a history or still currently using substances. So today I will talk about cannabis use and regulations in the Netherlands as an Amsterdam Cannabis cafes and the Dutch experience. I will also talk about the changes in the drug policy in the Netherlands and the impact of these changes on the drug markets. It's a very complicated issue, and due to its complexity, I will repeat the important issues over and over and summarize here and there. First, I will explain the characteristics of the Dutch drug policy, which has always been lenient and tolerant towards the use and drug users. Then I will show you recent important changes in this policy, which shifted towards a more restricted approach. Next, I will talk on the impact of these restrictive changes on the drug markets. Then finally, we will conclude. So this is an overview. It's not my data, but it's an overview from the European Monitoring Center for Drugs and Drug Addiction, EMCDDA. Here you see that cannabis is the most common substance used by the Dutch general adult population, which is followed by a distance with the MDMA and cocaine. The use of all drugs is concentrated among young adults aged between 15 and 34 here. And the gender gap regarding cannabis use remains very prevalent. For example, cannabis use among young adults is approximately 1.5 times higher in males than females. And when you look at the cocaine use, it's even more. It's 3 times higher in the male population than the females. Here we have a data from the same agency, European School Survey Project, on alcohol and other drugs. This data on the use of substances among students aged between 15 and 16. This survey has been carried out regularly in the Netherlands from 1999, and the most recent data is from 2015 we have here. SPAT studies indicate a decreasing trend in lifetime cannabis use among school children over the period of 1999 to 2015. This might have a little bit to do with the new regulations. We will come back to that. Nevertheless, among students in the Netherlands, reported lifetime use of cannabis was notably higher than the other SPAT countries, and there are 35 SPAT countries, which Turkey is one of them as well. Lifetime use of drugs other than cannabis were more or less in line with the other European countries here. So studies among other subgroups of young people indicate that the use of substances is more common in recreational settings, for example, music festivals. And then cannabis and the MDMA are the most favored ones. Here in this figure, we see the arrests, so the criminal records. It's for cannabis use or possession. And in comparison to other European nations, arrests and convictions for use of illegal substances and possession for personal use are very low in the Netherlands. Netherlands Opium Act, I think I should mention here. This is an act that came to the Netherlands in 1928 and was fundamentally amended in 1976. And this is the basis of the current drug legislation in the Netherlands. So what is that? What it defines is the drug trafficking, cultivation, production, dealing, and possession of drugs. They are considered as criminal acts, even in the Netherlands. The Act and its amendments confirm the distinction between hard drugs and soft drugs. I'm very curious how it is in Canada, because in Netherlands we group them as list 1, which are the hard drugs, cocaine, heroin, MDMA, amphetamines, and the soft drugs are cannabis. In 2012, which is a recent change in this law, is that it was proposed that cannabis involving THC more than 15% should also go into the hard drugs. This has not yet been done, but it's in the parliament. Does anyone know what this is? Nothing to be ashamed of if you know it. It's a space cake, yeah. Space cake or brownie, which is made of weed or hash. So it looks very innocent. Well, it might take up to 2 hours to show the effect. So don't take the second piece just because if you feel like it didn't work after an hour. So after 2 hours, you see the effect of space cake. And then the effect lasts 4 to 6 hours, and the after effects can last till 12 hours. Sorry? I didn't get that. So the Dutch tradition doesn't shy from controversy. The country has a centuries-long history of taking pragmatic approaches to potentially contentious subjects, such as abortion, sex work, euthanasia, and psychoactive substances. Tolerance and collaboration, despite differences in views and lifestyle, it was very crucial to the early prosperity of Holland. So, the purpose of the state is freedom, wrote Spinoza in 1670, advocating principled tolerance in all terrains. During the 60s and 70s, the Netherlands changed from a rather closed, segregated society to a more secular and social one. However, the need for pragmatism, tolerance, and dialogue didn't subside, and these qualities remained at the core of the Dutch policy. As politics became more populist in the 2000s, the directive force of drug policy moved from the health department to the justice, which brought the public order and crime fighting more to the front. And this has been the primary drives of the drug policy as well, unfortunately. This is a situation that has lasted until this day. So first of all, the policy is pragmatic, the characteristics of the Dutch drug policy. A basic conviction is that drugs will always be used, drugs cannot be eradicated from the society, so you can only contain the drug problem. A second basic principle is that instead of investing in a war on drugs, you will better focus on protection of public health and keep the risks of drug use as small as possible. And a further basic principle was that you will better prevent marginalization and criminalization of drug users. Because when you send them to jail, they're not getting out better. Even worse, because it will be more difficult for them to participate in the society back again. So better focus on treatment. So these are the main features of drug policy, Dutch drug policy. Use of drugs is not defined as a criminal act. Possession of small amounts for personal use is not prosecuted, insofar as the drug is really meant for personal use. Small-scale cultivation of cannabis for personal use is not prosecuted. Sale of cannabis in coffee shops is tolerated. I'm not saying it's legal, but in Dutch it is gedoogd, which means literally tolerated. Besides the supply reduction and demand reduction, there has always been a strong focus on harm reduction. So what you can recognize in the principles of containment and the pragmatic attitude here. These basic features have been valid in the Netherlands since more than 40 years. The approach consists of a combination of supply reduction, which is investigation and prosecution of production, trafficking, organized crime. Demand reduction is the prevention and school campaigns, and harm reduction. So harm reduction is the explicit expression of the idea of risk management. The Netherlands was one of the first countries that applied methadone prescription, for example, medical heroin prescription, user consumption rooms, needle exchange programs. tolerated sale of cannabis, and care as an alternative to imprisonment for drug users who commit a crime. But of course, this policy has always been controversial, even amongst us clinicians. And at least within the INCB, International Narcotics Control Board, which is saying that Dutch policy is not in line with the UN drug treaties. So as well as the pressure from the conservative neighboring countries, which is Germany and Belgium. When we come to the harm reduction, there is no universally accepted definition for it. It is grounded in the recognition that many people throughout the world are unable and unwilling to stop using drugs. And the goal of the harm reduction is keeping people alive and protecting their health and encouraging positive change in their lives. Harm reduction is very well evidenced to prevent diseases such as HIV, viral hepatitis, among others. When you look at how this tolerance policy works in Netherlands, well, in 1995 and 2009, the policy got evaluated again and again, and it showed positive effects and negative effects. Within the positive developments, use of highly addictive drugs remained low, such as crack, heroin. Low rate of infectious diseases among injecting drug users have been found. Low death rates among drug users. Coffee shops kept cannabis users away from hard drug use. Trends in cannabis use in line with the other countries, more and less. But policy has also negative effects. So it's called the backdoor problem. Supply of cannabis to the coffee shops has been a high priority for the law enforcement. There's an ambiguity there. It's called the backdoor problem. So you can buy the cannabis, but you don't know where it's coming from. It's like you buy the milk, but you don't know anything about the cow. So the unanticipated consequence was a significant increase of criminal organizations' involvement in this cultivation of the cannabis. The Minister of Health didn't feel responsible for the backdoor problem, and coffee shop policy became increasingly framed in terms of organized crime and public order. Coalition politics, anxiety over international critique, and pressure from neighboring countries prevented initiatives from regulating this inconsistency in the Dutch policy until today. So this led to vigorous approaches. More law enforcement, less tolerance. There have been changes still going on. It first announced in 1995, gradually, very slowly, coming to this day. There has been studies checking what happens after 1995. Well, as you see, expenditures by the national government is increased. The red line here is the total expenditures to crime. There's a general increase. The police became more active. And using the soft drugs have been actually, with anti-correlation with the hard drugs here you see. You can start the video. Probably you know this video. Pulp Fiction, most of you will know probably the movie, telling about the drug law in the Netherlands. As you see, it's really complicated. You can buy it, you cannot sell it, you can use it, but in a certain place, and as I told before. So, coffee shops are probably the widest known example of Dutch drug policy. They play a vital role in Dutch tourism. Like figures suggest that 30% of people who visit Amsterdam spend a time in coffee shop. The Netherlands' cannabis laws are about as liberal as a nation attain without fully legalizing cannabis. Dutch citizens can possess 5 grams of cannabis at a time for personal consumption only. Well, this sounds like legalization. Again, it's not. Plenty of people, especially tourists, think that cannabis is legal in Holland, but it's only decriminalized, so it's tolerated. This means the police won't go out randomly handcuffing unsuspected smokers, but it's still illegal in the law books. Here you see an example of a Dutch coffee shop. You can buy cannabis here, but coffee shops have to comply the rules. It's a regulated market. And the use of any hard drugs such as cocaine, LSD, heroin, morphine, MDMA is strictly forbidden in all Amsterdam coffee shops. Large-scale professional plantations are tracked down by helicopters with infrared cameras, and owners of plantations face heavy penalties and can be evicted. Again, this is the summary of what I was telling about the Dutch coffee shop criteria. No advertising, no hard drugs, no nuisance. Nuisance means baş belası olmak, dertli olmak gibi bir şey. And there's an age limit, 18, and a transaction size is reduced to 5 grams from 30 grams. And in 2012, 2 more things added, which is coffee shops need to be small and membership only. I will come back to that membership thing. And the coffee shops are only open to residents of the Netherlands. This statistic displays the total number of coffee shops in the Netherlands from 2005 to 17. Here in 13, you can see that there are approximately 600 coffee shops in the Netherlands. By 2017, this is decreased to roughly 570. And today, there are only 173 coffee shops in Amsterdam. It came because of the law that coffee shops cannot be 250 meters around the schools. That's why most of them are closed down. What is the weed pass? This identity pass that you can buy weed, cannabis from the coffee shop. So it was designed to prohibit non-Dutch nationals from visiting the coffee shops. And it was trialed in some of country's southern provinces, like Maastricht. Most towns and cities have reportedly abandoned this, because Amsterdam has been exempted from enforcing this pass only in the condition of a mayor closes the coffee shops. And it's again this 200-meter closeness to the schools. However, in coffee shops in Maastricht, still they want to see this pass. And more rigorous tolerance criteria for coffee shops is, in a nutshell, coffee shops are tolerated if they have a license from the mayor, if they adhere to the tolerance criteria, which tolerated means that the sale of cannabis, which is in fact a criminal act. Coffee shops are tolerated because they keep cannabis users away from illegal market, actually. And in those streets, illegal markets, they mostly find other like crack, MDMA, ecstasy. And this criteria, when you look at it, striking to see that 95, 30 reduced to 5 gram, and they add the 18 years limit. And then the private club and residence criteria, as I described. Well, there have been an evaluation study. We didn't do this study, but a group in Holland, they made it, and they checked what has changed after this law changes. They followed up 6 months, 18 months, surveys among coffee shop visitors, among cannabis users. They interviewed the local experts, among people living in around the vicinity of the coffee shops. And they found that, yes, because of the law, there was a law of purchase. But what's interesting here is, you see that the coffee shop customers turn to illegal retail markets outside of the coffee shops. Well, residents as well as non-residents. Residents didn't want to go because they didn't want to register themselves with an identity pass that they are able to go to a coffee shop. So they turned to the illegal markets. Because of that, there were oppositions from the mayors, and some judges were also proportionally supporting for or pro the concept. So what does it look like when you go to a coffee shop? Well, they have a menu. Over the counter, you can buy it, which gives information usually in English, and about the various strains they have available. Alcohol is not permitted in the coffee shops, only soft drinks, hot beverage, snacks. And a general rule of thumb is the more expensive, the stronger the weed is. Well, you see a joint is €5. A mercimek çorbası in the hotel is the same price. We have the video.
Amsterdam, such a peaceful city. Bikes, canals, so much to see. But we went to Amsterdam for a different reason. The 70th Amsterdam coffee shop visits. First up will be moving on this coffee shop west at latitude 239. Moving is one of the most professional cannabis coffee shops in Amsterdam. It is not Amsterdam welcome you, but a true host. The Amsterdam school-style architecture combined with brass walls, wood, and marble, makes you feel like you are walking into a super classy pharmacy.
Thank you. So I want you to make sure to understand that I'm not promoting this, but I would like to give a view of what it looks like, and this is our fact in Holland. So I could have gone myself to one of the coffee shops and video it, but I can't handle the smoke in there, so I just put this video. Well, the primary objective of Dutch drug policy never was to decrease the drug use, actually, but to contain the associated social and medical problems. Other European nations arrests and convicts for use of illegal substances and possessions of personal use, but it's much lower in the Netherlands right now. And Netherlands is one of the countries with the lowest percentage of injecting than other countries. Together with Belgium, Netherlands has the lowest HIV incidence in Europe. So lessons learned from the Dutch experience. Decriminalization of individual possession doesn't increase drug use. Separating drug markets is legally and practically possible, and it's successful. Hard versus soft drugs. Separated drug markets result in fewer criminal records, less social exclusion, and more controlled consumption. Public health-driven drug policy contributes to the reduction of drug-related harm. Change should be comprehensive, regulating sale to consumers, wholesale supply, and cultivation. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Wim van der Brink, my colleague, who has been a prominent person in drug policy in the Netherlands. And thank you for your attention.